What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward. Talk about some big earnings that just came out and how things are looking, in my personal opinion. Let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. Anyways, for Tesla, I just wanted to mention that we saw a very, very interesting day. We were holding up very nicely in the beginning as we got some interesting news from Jerome Powell yesterday. Also, Meta beat on earnings. So the market was holding up, trying to push in the morning for the first 20 minutes. And then we got some very important news and data that caused the market to get a rug pull. Tesla, as a result, dipped all the way down to its 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. And if this EMA breaks, Tesla's going to be looking for even more downside. So I'm going to break down some very important levels and what to watch for as time goes on. So what happened with the markets? What news came out? Let me just note that I'm not a fortune teller. I don't always know what the news is going to be. I can't predict if there's spontaneously going to be some kind of war that happens or something else like that. I can't always do that, guys. So sometimes, even if I make predictions, I could be flat, like straight up wrong. And it happens, right? This is a normal part of day trading. That's why you always have to be able to be prepared when looking at different levels just to see how things could develop. So I just wanted to call that out. So the data came out for today at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the manufacturing sector is looking weak. PMI was below expectations. Manufacturing prices are above expectations. So prices are still high, but new orders are still slowing down, not to mention employment in manufacturing. So we're seeing some weakness in that sector. This is once again showing economic slowdowns. And then on top of this, prices are still elevated. So that's something very, very important, not the best pieces of data. This is what caused the market to start dipping just a bit. And then we had this new piece of news. We saw some news that came out about more tensions in the Middle East. I'm not going to go over the full details. That's not my job. You guys can look this up yourself. But I just want to say that it's very horrible to hear about pieces of news like this. It's very sad. We all want peace, and it's very, very horrible to see the fact that innocent people are the ones who pay the biggest price when things like this happen. So I'm hoping that the situation does not escalate. I'm hoping that things do not become more intense. I just want there to be peace, but the way it's looking, guys, the situation is just, it's very, very unpredictable. It's a little scary right now, and tensions are just at a very, very high right now. And that's why the market is very apprehensive. That's why the market is selling off the way it is. This is not the best of news because so many countries are involved, such as the United States, such as China, Russia, and the list goes on. It's very, very important. Now, for more data, just notes that for SPY, we have a 2.35 puts to call ratio. We have about 660,000 plus puts expiring for tomorrow and over 280,000 calls. Right now, the majority of positions are in puts. For earnings that just came out, we have some big news. Amazon, Apple, Intel, Coinbase, they all announced earnings, and right now things are favoring the downside for the markets. Why is that? Apple is the first one that reported their sales are up 5%, topping estimates. However, the share price is only up 0.7%. Not really enough to really shake this market, and that's not a good piece of news. So, what's good for them is they beat on EPS with $1.40. They beat with revenue with 85.78 billion, and all their other iPhone, Mac, iPad, wearable, home, and accessories revenues have been above expectations, with gross margins being at about 46.3%. Overall, their guidance is not bad, good growth overall, and they're still holding up quite well. They also have been talking about a big sector, which is the iPad sector, which is growing. Not bad whatsoever for their sales. That's why the share price is still holding up. This wasn't enough to really impress investors to get the share price up like 4 or 5%. It's only a 0.7% move to the upside. So it's very, very lackluster, actually. And I say that because compared to Amazon's down 7% right now. So this is going to have a bigger effect on the market. Amazon is also, a multi-trillion dollar company. And if anything, it has, its share price is just dumping. This is going to have a bigger effect on the way things are going. So why is Amazon dumping? Here's the answer why. EPS was at $1.26. That's above expectations. Revenue is at 147.98 billion. That's below expectations, if anything. Their web services is technically just a little bit above expectations, but then advertising revenue is below expectations as well. So revenue overall and advertising revenue are below expectations for Amazon, and their forecast revenue are basically between 154 to 158.5 billion dollars. That's a growth of 8 to 11%. That's what they're forecasting for the current quarter. However, the midpoint is only 156.25 billion dollars, below what we're estimating at 158 billion. So basically, the reason why Amazon is down is because parts of their revenue were not strong. They missed on revenue overall, missed on some earnings, and then their guidance was kind of weak. That's why share price is down 7%. Intel's also down 18% right now. They have to cut 15% of their workforce. They missed when it comes to guidance, missed on EPS with 2 cents, and the revenue is only 12.8 billion below expectations with weak guidance once again. Intel's sinking, Amazon is dumping, and Apple's kind of flat. So what do you think this favors? This favors the downside for the markets because once again, Amazon is leading the way with the biggest move. Now, when it comes to Tesla, we had about 83 million in volume. Volume has slowed down, but the share price is dipping too. And short volume is going up just a little bit towards about that 61% mark. For other factors, we have Cantor Fitzgerald that just came out. They gave Tesla a neutral rating. We also saw the price-price ratio dip as Tesla lost some strength. There's not really much else that's going on with this. So what do I see for the share price? What do I think is going to happen? I want to remind everyone that we have more data tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Friday, August 2nd, the first Friday for the month of August of the year. Notice that 1 hour before the market opens, we have some payrolls data, the unemployment rate, labor force participation rate, and lots of important payrolls data. This is going to cause a very, very big move. So we'll see what this leads to. But when it comes to the way things are looking, let me just call out the bullish and bearish cases and talk about what's more favorable. So if we get good data, and despite the fact that Amazon is selling off, and despite the fact that we're getting some negative news involving the Middle East, if we somehow bounce and Tesla manages to hold 215 tomorrow, look for a push for 219, then 222. Those are going to be some very, very key levels. If Tesla loses 215, we're going to be dipping all the way down to these lows. I think that 206 is going to be our next target. There's going to be a sell off all the way down to this imbalance. 206 is likely coming next if we end up losing 215. So watch and see if we hold 215 for tomorrow. It's trying to see some buyers defend it, but just be careful because there was bad news. So in my opinion, it depends on the unemployment numbers. But from a technical standpoint, Tesla is looking more bearish. We're just barely holding our support. And we got some bad news involving all these different sectors. Because of Amazon's earnings, because of the Middle East situation, the odds are favoring the downside. So I just want to call that out. We'll see if we hold 215, but just keep that in the back of your mind. When it comes to SPY, we're looking a little bit more bearish as well. We're barely at this area. We need to reclaim 542.5 to turn back up. If we do reclaim that, look for 544, then 546. If we don't reclaim 542.5, look at 540. If we lose that, watch 538. And if that fails, we're going to be breaking our lows and coming all the way down towards basically around 536. So from a technical standpoint, right now we look more bearish. We're making lower highs and lower lows, especially if we lose these lows here, we will turn more bearish. So you want to be very, very careful. But like I said before, because of Amazon's earnings, because of the news around the world with geopolitics, the odds are favoring downside, but it's not a guarantee unless we lose key support at 540. So watch and see. Tomorrow morning, if we break past 542.5, we could push a little bit. If we lose 540, there's going to be more downside coming. That's going to be your confirmation. This chart is favoring. Maybe it pops, then drops, and eventually loses 540 and starts dipping into the mid 530s, 536 specifically. That's looking more favorable, but just to be safe, watch your levels for confirmation. But that is looking more likely just looking at the chart. Looking at ES, we're seeing some defense around this area. I'm going to be looking at resistance all the way up here around this 5,500 area. And if we end up losing support at 5,450, we'll be dipping all the way down towards the low 5,400s. So we have kind of like a head and shoulders like structure. This is favoring the downside. This makes me think that there might be a move to the downside coming. We still look more bearish, technically speaking, so please be very careful with these charts. Now, it could be pop in the morning. It's possible, but there might be a dip coming. This still favors the downside. For SPX, it's the same thing essentially. We have a weak structure. If we end up reclaiming 5,500, we couldn't turn back up. If we fail to do so, we end up losing support at 5,420. We'll be dipping all the way down towards much lower levels where this gap is around 5,375, and then eventually lower levels. So there's a head and shoulders like structure. We look more bearish on SPX and we favor the downside. So please be very, very careful. For other things out there, I just want to mention that for Nvda, we were supposed to rebound today. We did rebound up to about this like 121 area. We did call out this move, but we got all this bad news in the Middle East, not to mention the manufacturing numbers. So Nvidia ended up getting a bit of a rug pull. So in my opinion, if we try to reclaim 112, we could turn back up to 116. If we fail to do so, look at support around 107. If the low of the day breaks in this 107 area, we're dipping all the way down towards 104. And if that breaks, we have 100 coming. In my opinion, The chart is looking more bearish when you zoom out, making lower highs and lower lows, and this favors a test of 104 again. But just to be safe, we'll see what happens with the unemployment numbers. That's going to be another big factor alongside these other pieces of news. So watch the levels I called up, but just know that we are favoring the downside. Bitcoin's trying to rebound a bit, but make sure you guys watch resistance. It's on a downtrend still, but we'll see how it ends up reacting to test 65,400. If that breaks, I'll be looking for 66,000. If it rejects, we'll be coming back down. So we're testing these resistance levels on Bitcoin. So we'll see how things go. For NQ, got a big rejection. If we end up reclaiming 19,000, I'll be looking for 19,400. If we break that, we could turn back up. If we fail to do so and we keep falling, look at 18,800, very close to that area as our support. If that breaks, we'll be dipping all the way down to about 18,400. So this is favoring the downside, especially on NQ. I do favor that this may dip lower as we have head and shoulders. So that's looking more bearish. So just be very, very careful for now. For the QQQ, we're looking a little bit more bearish. We have resistance currently around this 460 area and 465. If we don't reclaim 460 and also 465, we remain bearish. If we continue to fall and we end up losing support around the 454 area, maybe a little bit lower around that range. If that fails, this thing is going to come all the way down towards 450, then 444. So it's looking a little bit more bearish to me with this head and shoulders. This favors downside, so just be very careful. So we'll just have to see how things go. For Aapl has kind of like a head and shoulders like structure that's kind of developing, but it's not looking too bad. We're still in this range right here. We have this 220 areas resistance and 221.5. I think Apple might try to push a little bit tomorrow and then just continue to consolidate. So I find that's to be the most likely possibility. Earnings are not really helping it run the way it could. So that being said, there's a lot of data coming out for unemployment numbers. Tesla's barely at support at 215. We'll see if this holds. That's going to be a very, very key level. And we'll see how it goes. The chart is looking more bearish if you look at the structure, making lower highs and lower lows. We're still continuing to reject on Tesla, so we haven't been able to really break out. So this is still favoring downside, but just to be safe, make sure you watch the unemployment numbers, make sure you watch all the data that's coming out, not to mention the news. The news is going to be very important, so pay attention to that for tomorrow too. All right, so anyways, let's talk about the rest of the charts. Just want to give you guys one more heads up. Looking at Palantir, we look more bearish. We're barely holding this support around 25.69. If we lose this, we'll be tipping all the way down towards, I would say, the 24.7 area. If we bounce off this, we'll be looking at resistance around 26.5. This is favoring the downside of it, especially if we lose support, and we'll be dipping back down towards these areas into the 24.6 area. So we favor downside on Palantir, looking a little bit more bearish. For Supermicro, we have a downtrend that's being respected right here. We do favor downside as well. We need to reclaim 680 to push up to 700. If we end up losing support around this 660, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 640. So this is favoring downside on Supermicro. Looks a little bit more bearish to me. Just want to call that out. For Rivian, we're looking a little bit more bearish as well. If we fail to hold 15, we'll be dipping down towards 14.36. If we hold this support, we could try to rebound towards 15.72. So this is favoring the downside all the way back down towards 14.36. If we lose 15, so watch that very carefully. This is still looking more bearish, technically speaking. SoFi is barely holding support around 7.08. If we bounce off this, look for 7.2. If we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 6.95. Then the gap fill for 6.7. So we favor the downside. SoFi is looking more bearish, so just be very careful. And we'll have to see how things go. We have a double top leg structure. This is once again continuing to weaken. So I just want to call that out. Be very, very careful with the way the charts are looking, and this is how things are developing, in my opinion. For the IWM, we're looking a little bit more bearish with this bearish divergence that's developing. Watch 215 as key supports, this 215 to 216 area. If that fails, we have a gap to fall all the way down to 213. If that fails, we'll be dipping down towards 210. We have resistance currently around 218 and 220. We'll see if we get a bounce. If we hold this 216 zone, we'll be looking for 218. If not, look for 213, if not lower. This chart is favoring downside. If you look at this big red bar that formed, generally we do see more downside after that happens, so just be careful in the IWM. For AMD, we need to reclaim basically 135 to push up to 140. If we fail to do so, we'll be dipping all the way down to 130, then 128. This chart is continuing to fall, so it looks more bearish to me. For ARM is continuing to fall. We have a risk of more downside, in my opinion. We have this resistance around this 125 area, and we have more downside coming towards about basically very close to this 115 area. So I think ARM is favoring downsides continuing to fall. Looks like a very bearish structure. For Coinbase, unfortunately for Coinbase, we're only up 2%, not really much of a move. We could try to push up for 220, but I don't think it's going to be much of a move. Maybe a little bit more upside and then some consolidation, but there's not much going on with this. Amazon's looking very weak. We're barely at 170 holding support. We have resistance at 172.5. If we break that, I'll be looking for 174 all over again. And if we lose 170, we'll be looking for 168, then eventually all the way down towards about 165. Amazon's looking more bearish, very, very weak right now, and this is going to drag the market down most likely for tomorrow. So just be careful. That's going to be very significant. Meta is very flat right now. If we hold above 500, look for a bounce for 510. If we lose 500, we'll be dipping, and we don't hold above it, we'll be dipping back down to 488. So just be very careful. For Microsoft, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. If we reclaim 421, we could try to bounce. If we lose that and fail, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 409. We're favoring downside on Microsoft, so just be very careful. For Google, there's a bit of a downtrend right here. We have resistance currently around this 172 area and also at 175. If we fail to reclaim 172, we'll be dipping back down towards 170, then eventually all the way down towards 168. Google's looking a little bit more bearish, so just be careful. So we're kind of rejecting off our key areas. So please be very mindful of that, over the fact that this is showing weakness. GameStop is going to likely dip to 20. AMC is going to likely dip towards 5 flat, and then I'm going to be looking for 4.92. So far, I'm seeing a weakness on both of the memes. TJT is also looking more bearish. We lost 28, not a good sign. We could be tipping all the way down towards 25 flat. We'll see if we bounce off that or not, but we still look more bearish. The VIX is trying to break out. We're actually holding up nicely. If you break past 19, we'll be looking for 21. That could be because the market's going to dip, so just be very, very mindful of that. For the 10-year Treasury yield, we have a bearish structure. This could continue to fall. This may drag us all the way down to much lower levels, such as 3.8. So this is once again happening because of Jerome Powell's speech. So we'll see how things go. The dollar is just in a range right now. We're holding the 103.8 area as support. So we have resistance around the 104 zone. We're going back and forth and back and forth. You could argue we have like a double bottom. So it is possible the dollar tries to bounce and tries to push into like the mid 104s, so like 104.5 plus. But it's in the middle. It's kind of indecisive. So we'll just have to see how things go. Anyways, that is pretty much it for my video. I want to thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great day. Tesla's barely holding the support at this 215 area. We'll see how it goes, guys. I mean, it's possible we get a little counter trend move in the morning, but then we might dip lower. If we're going to drop lower and we lose that, look for a bigger drop. That's going to be your confirmation. Don't forget, tomorrow, an hour before the market opens, we have the unemployment rate and a bunch of payrolls data. That's going to be pivotal for the way the market moves for tomorrow. So pay attention to all of this data. I'll be back tomorrow before the market opens to give you guys another update. And I'm also going to be talking about this news that's coming out with the Middle East. It's very tense right now, not good for geopolitics. That's also very bearish for the markets right now. So keep all of this in the back of your guys' minds. Unfortunately, Apple did not do much to help the market bounce, and Amazon is just dumping, which is not good for the bulls either. So the market has more bearish momentum that's building because of all of this, and I think we favor downside as well. Now, I've seen a lot of people who are commenting that I was completely wrong, and they like to say that. I just want to say that, look, I'm a human. I make mistakes. I'm not always going to be correct about my predictions. I will be wrong. It's going to happen. Some days I could be completely off because I can't always predict what the news is going to give us. But I love to give you guys kind of like the bullish and bearish cases and give you guys an analysis of what's very probable. And the majority of the time, I do believe I've been correct. I did call out how the market was dipping. I also called out a counter trend bounce that was coming. I did call all of this out, especially the downside, that move that we've been seeing. You can go back to my videos if you don't believe me. So I've been right a lot. When I am correct, I don't really get called out for being correct much. I'm always going to be called out for being wrong, and it happens. And I honestly just don't mind it, right? You guys can have your own opinions. That's completely fine. But for the people who are new to the channel, I am right the large majority of the time with predictions. I can't always be right. Sometimes completely unexpected things can happen. But if you follow me long enough, you will see that my analysis tends to be very useful for people. So please don't just be swayed away solely because of some comments. Please, guys, just give me a chance, listen to what I have to say, and you will be able to deem your own opinions based off that. So once again, the charts are favoring downside, but we'll see what kind of reaction we get with the unemployment numbers, and be very, very cautious, at least for now, for the markets. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market before the market opens. Excuse me. Have a great day, a great night, a great evening, wherever you are, and I'll see you guys very soon. Have a great day, and peace out.